big story coming in from Jerusalem. A massive explosion has just been heard in Jerusalem. Remember, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv directly in the line of Iranian fire, repeatedly targeted, but also has the Iron Dome and David Sling air defense shield. Is this an explosion in the air where an incoming projectile has been neutralized, though debris may still cause damage, or has some damage been caused? 8 people were unfortunately killed in Israel just yesterday when the debris fell on a shelter. I quickly want to cut across to Mayan Hoffman, who joins us from Jerusalem. Mayan, I hope you're safe. What's happening?
Yeah, so I'm actually standing here listening to the booms. They're asking us still to be in shelters. The rockets are still going off, and they say they're expecting more coming in from Iran. This is after quite a quiet night. We had about 8 hours of quiet overnight in the Jerusalem and central area, even though there were some rockets launched by Hezbollah up north, hitting a couple of houses in the Galilee. But yesterday evening, in the last rocket attack that hit in Jerusalem, there were 7 people injured, 1 seriously, and the rest lightly injured. But everybody else has been, by and large fine here in Jerusalem. But right now we're hearing very loud booms overhead. There were massive interceptions going on. And as I said, the IDF has said that more rockets are on their way.
So tell me this, the Iron Dome and the David Sling, they seem to be operational, the Israeli Air Force is in the skies. But how intense is Iran's counter-offensive? We'll talk about GCC countries in just a moment, the Gulf countries in a moment. But how serious is the targeting of Israel in the past 2 days?
I mean, in the last 2 days, it's actually been relatively, I would even call it, well, first of all, I would say the Iron Dome and David Sling have mostly been successful. You have to remember they're about a 99% success rate, which means some rockets will inevitably get through. And that's why Israeli citizens are asked always to go to their shelters and bunker down when a rocket gets shot at Israel, because there are exceptions to the rule. But by and large, successful. That being said, as you reported, it was not 8, but it was actually 9 people who were killed yesterday in Beit Shemesh when there was a direct hit on a synagogue there. Some of the people were in the shelter, but some of them were not. Some of them were in the general area of the synagogue or even outside the synagogue. There are still 3 people in serious condition from that attack, and many, many more, over almost 50 people in hospital being treated for injuries from that attack. So that was in Beit Shemesh yesterday. That's also quite close to Jerusalem, really between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And as we know, in the first night of rockets, there was 1 woman killed in her 40s when there was a direct hit on an apartment building in Tel Aviv. So the defenses are working, but they're not foolproof.
So 10 fatalities, sadly, in Israel so far. But tell me this, what is it that you're picking up? Will it intensify in the days ahead? How long is it likely to last? Or are Israel and America on top of the situation?
Look, Israel and America on top of the situation, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be short-lived. President Trump, as you heard him say, this could last up to 4 weeks. And Prime Minister Netanyahu last night made a very similar speech to the people of Israel, letting them know that this was not going to be a short war. So we're all assuming that we're going to have another several weeks of this situation. How intense it's going to be, I think that really depends on the effectiveness of the attacks in Iran. We know that the IDF and the US are continuing to attack key targets in Iran. We heard President Trump say yesterday that they had started to identify successors for Khamenei, but in fact, all of them were killed, and they would have to look for a different successor. He's also put out there, however, that the Iranians are interested in negotiations, something the Iranians, as we know, are denying. But the truth will start to come out, and we'll see where this war is heading. Originally, when the war erupted, most Israelis believed this would be a short war, a few days, intense attacks against Iran, and that we would be able to not see what we saw in June. 12 days of war, 28 Israelis killed. But based on what we saw yesterday afternoon in Beit Shemesh, and even the debris that fell yesterday in Jerusalem and the sounds of the booms this morning, it's looking like this could be a lot longer than we expected.